All right, Minnesota Timberwolves fans, hello and welcome on. We are ready to celebrate a fantastic Timberwolves win to advance to the playoffs against the Memphis Grizzlies coming up. But what an awesome game to watch them defeat the LA Clippers tonight and clinch that seventh seed. To join me in the excitement is my buddy Mike Baltz. Good to see you, Mike. What a
Wolves
great
back,
game.
baby. Yeah, man. It was amazing. I got to be there for it. I'm lucky.
Dude, you were at the game. You got to witness everything. Tell me, what was the atmosphere like for the whole game?
I mean, packed house. If you know me, you can hear it in my voice. It's a little shredded up from yelling at Ed Malloy and Scott Foster because it was a scary 3 quarters, and our best player fouled out.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of yelling, and but it was packed house. Can't ask for anything more. Nobody leaving their seats. It was good.
It was fantastic, my friend, and what an awesome experience
to get to be back in the Target Center headed to the playoffs. From home, I watched it on TV, and it looked like the place was packed. The fans were cheering. I heard refs suck quite a few times during the game.
My personal favorite was when we switched it up, and I do think, it's funny because sometimes when the refs suck stuff, when people start chanting stuff like that, instantly on the PA, they go to like defense or something. Yeah. And I think it really gets in them psychologically when it's a different kind of chant. And for the like late third and most of the fourth quarter, there was a lot of beat LA. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's like, it's different. It gets in their heads because they're not used to hearing beat LA as opposed to hearing defense or whatever,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely gets into the players' heads. I think it got a little bit into Karl Anthony Towns' head, hearing it early in the game and picking up his 3 quick fouls. I think he had 4 at halftime, right?
Yeah, I mean, the foul discrepancy, I think they had 5 or 6 more fouls in the first half. Or, I mean, we had more fouls, 5 or 6 more. But, and that's considering the fact that they gave us 2 makeup calls that I could see from my seat, where it was like, okay, we got to give the Wolves a call because we messed up. And, it felt like we were battling uphill for most of the game with our superstar in foul trouble. Karl couldn't guard anyone. He had to just put his hands up and just, not be able to guard, which is why Zubac went off. He completely did what Karl gets called for every time, at least twice, probably more, where he wraps his arm around the defender.
Oh, yeah.
And he did it to Pat Bev, and they were completely isolated. And I'm watching Scott Foster, who is literally 6 feet away, just looking at the play and doesn't call it. And in fact, he might have called, I don't know if he called a foul on Pat Bev or just let him score, but it's like, how is Karl getting that call? And then this guy, I mean, Pat Bev's got to have like, it's like an 80-pound, 8-inch difference, and it's like, you got to call that. And it felt like we were really battling uphill. And it was funny looking at Twitter earlier today because there was like actual math on like the fact that Scott Foster and Ed Malloy hate us. Like they officiate us against us. And so it just made the win sweeter, especially
it did.
Yeah, the end.
It did make the end sweeter, right? To know that we could handle the adversity from the refs and still come away with the W without Karl being in the game.
Without our best player.
Our best player. And I think there were a couple times where Karl's arguing about a call that was a foul. You can give him a couple hooks there in the game too, But it's tough, and I'm really hoping that Karl learns a lesson from this. Maybe this is the turning point for him that we saw earlier in the year when he kind of quieted down about the complaining. the broadcast, Reggie Miller talked about it. It was one of the first things he talked about tonight on the broadcast. I mean,
Reggie's my boy. Reggie's my boy, but actually, hold on one sec. I want to see. 1 sec.
1 second. Got ya. Waiting. I think he has got a Reggie Miller blow-up doll.
Yeah, I do. No, I got this. Can you see that? Miller time.
Oh yeah, Miller time. Kind of the background, it blurs it out, but Reggie's there.
Anyways, it's a Reggie Miller t-shirt. He was my favorite player growing up. But
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I will say in Cat's defense is Paul George was using his off arm the entire game to push people off and not getting called for it. He got called for it one time, and he was doing it the whole game. And I think if you're someone like Carl, you're like, why am I not getting that call? And you think, okay, well, Carl's a big center, right? Carl is maybe an inch taller than Paul George. He's not that much taller.
Right.
It's ludicrous that he doesn't get some of those superstar calls, because Paul George is just pushing whoever off. He even elbowed someone I can't remember who did he elbow in the face, but like the crowd went nuts when it happened live. And it's like,
I don't remember an elbow in the face, but
I mean, it wasn't like, it's like he's pushing off, and it was just kind of like a thing.
Right.
But he's also George is doing the head kickback thing and getting foul calls. You should never get a foul called for a head kickback in the playoffs or play-in. Like, that's a stupid foul. Don't call that ever. When the games matter, if you want to call that in a regular season game 40, whatever. But it was kind of ridiculous, and man, it just made it sweeter. The place was just blown up. No one went home early. It was a madhouse. That's why it took me so long to get home. I had to drive like 6-7 blocks east to get out of downtown. Just to like get out of there. But yeah, I mean, it was an atmosphere. It's like, I'm very happy that I went. Looking forward to picking up some Wolves playoff tickets for their games with Memphis.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
I think so. Let's get into that. Celebrate. Cheers to a good Wolves victory, clinching the 7th seed. Cheers. And I think that this is the best solution. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous as hell going into the game, going, if we lose tonight and there's some way with that they can miss the playoffs completely by losing to either San Antonio or New Orleans, like, that would be devastating, right? So I was very nervous going into tonight, man. That's like Timberwolves torture right there.
I mean, Vegas had us at about 50-50. And I think that depending on who you asked, they were like, yeah, we're probably going to lose. We might squeak one out. It could go either way. So when, like, for 3 quarters, it looked like we were down, like maybe we wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
It was harsh. And I remember, like, it was about halfway through the 3rd quarter. Things were starting to look a little bleak. And I looked at my brother, who I was at the game with, and I was just like, I have a feeling, I think we got this. Like, I don't know why Ant is just kind of, it seemed like my brother was like, Ant kind of disappeared after he had kind of an initial rush in the 1st quarter. And I was like, well, I mean, he was on the bench for a lot of that because they sat him for a little bit, but it kind of felt like whenever Ant wanted to, he could, you know what I mean? Like, he was going
the first quarter for sure.
But I mean, even later, like
in the end of the game, he was making it. I mean, he made it happen, led the team with 30 points, and he was the leader that picked up the slack of not having Carl in there in the 4th quarter. He made some big threes.
Shout out to D'Lo too, man. D'Lo showed up after D'Lo's had a rough, like, 18 to 20 games where, like, it's been very few and far between where he's really, like, showed up on offense at least. And he showed up tonight, man.
Yeah, he did. He had 29 points on the night, and it was pretty awesome to see him make those big shots at the end of the game, too. It seemed like early in the 4th quarter, Paul George and him kind of went back and forth, and Anthony Edwards had a 3 there, too. It was like making big shots. It was fun basketball to watch. Far different than the what seemed like the entire 2nd quarter was all foul calls and free throws. And that game dragged on. That was a long game because of all the stoppages.
Yeah. I think what I think one thing that, like, watching it live, like, the thing that I think most impressed me of anyone was Finch, because when we came out, even in the first quarter, even when like Ant was kind of popping off, Ant was popping off on like ridiculous threes, off balance, kind of just like this can't be replicated. But like when D'Lo had the ball, like we were getting kind of strung up. Like he couldn't like make passes. Like the Clippers are a very good defense. And so we were kind of like having trouble running our offense. And Finch was very open before the playoffs or the play-in started. He's like, we're going to run what we run because we're good. We're the best offense in the league since January. We're going to do it. And we were strung up. And then he kind of made switches. Like you could notice starting in like late second quarter and stuff, there's a lot more like the handoff, side to side action, like just trying to find any kind of like hole in the defense. And I think it really like helped us. And it also put them in this mode where like, okay, they're not going to do this like pick and roll stuff right now. Then they're going to do this. And then going into the third and fourth, which are they going to do? Are they going to do handoffs side to side? Are they going to do pick and roll? Like what's going on here? And I think that really helped us. And also Pat Bev getting in their heads was amazing.
Dude, Pat Bev got in that head. What didn't happen and almost did was Markieff Morris, right? Almost got kicked out for his second technical, but then they just called it on Pat Bev. And I don't know. I think if you're going to give it to one, you give it to the other.
The beef
Morris initiated the contact in the replay.
The beef on Twitter was, you know what it was? Malloy and Foster hate us, the two main refs.
Yeah.
I should say. And everyone on Twitter, and I'm sure they said this in the broadcast, I haven't watched it yet. Malloy called that tech and then realized that would eject Morris, and instead was like, well, we should review this for like what do they call it? Like trying to think of the name. Anyways, we should review this for like an aggressive
common
play.
foul or
well, like an aggressive
flagrant
play or whatever it's called. Yeah. But like he changed it because he realized that Morris would have fouled out. And that's not reffing, man. Get this guy out of here.
Right.
But also, we still won despite that. And Cat getting all those fouls and getting in foul trouble and going 0 for 7, initially.
Yep.
And that's a good sign for us going into Memphis.
It's a great sign. So let's talk about Memphis. I think this is much better than having to play against Phoenix. So getting the 7th seed locked in is so huge for them. The matchup, I think we can match up much better and really compete in a series against Memphis. What are your thoughts?
100%. I mean, we were 2-2 in the regular season. We match up well. The Clippers' defense is really good. Memphis isn't bad, but they're not as good as the Clippers on D because they don't have 9 guys that are 6'8" to 6'10" who can guard all 5 positions. Memphis doesn't have that. I mean, John Morant, for one, is worse than any Clippers defender, as good as he is on offense. And they can't, I mean, Adams is good, but what they're going to do is, they have Steven Adams, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget because they traded him and who was it? Valanciunas. Yeah. But Adams is good, but what they're going to do is they're going to have Karl at the 3-point line and be like, what are you going to do? Are you going to guard me with someone smaller, or are you going to send Adams out here and then he's toast? And I don't think they're going to be able to stop Karl like the Clippers were, no matter what they throw at him. And I think, the low side is that we take this to 5 or 6 games, and the high side is we have a chance to win a playoff series, which is big.
Yeah, they have a very good chance to win. I'm excited. I think this is just the best scenario for them, what they worked hard all year, and to get the 7th seed, go play at Memphis and really have a good shot at it. I think that they've got some issues to talk about. I mean, Karl's going to have a tougher matchup down low against Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams, right? than he did tonight against Zubox and the other guy.
Well, bringing back something from tonight, you know who was number one flopper in the game tonight? Let me ask you, who would you say was the number one flopper in the game tonight?
Beverly? Who?
It was Paul George. It happened like 3-4 times. He flopped. And one of those times when Carl got the foul from behind, it was a foul technically, but it wasn't a playoff foul. And George just crumbled his legs and fell. And that was just one of them. It happened multiple times. But I bring that up to say the other person who does that a lot is Jaren Jackson Jr. And that's why I'm not a huge fan. Obviously, I like Pat Bev. And obviously, flopping is a thing. It is. D'Lo kicks his head back just as much as anyone in the league. Yep. But, like, Jaren Jackson Jr., like, people are so hyped about him, and I don't really understand it. And obviously, I see 6-7 Memphis games a year. So that's not a lot. It's possible I'm watching the wrong games. I just don't see what people see in him. Like, they think he's going to be a superstar. I don't think that's the case. And furthermore, he's not a player I want to root for. I want to root for John Morant, not in this series, but I want to root for that guy. I like that guy. Steven Adams isn't perfect, but I like him. He's a good character. He's a team player. Jaren Jackson Jr., you watch him play, he is just flopping everywhere. And it's like, you're 6'9", 240. Like, why are you flopping? Like, what is this? And so it'll be interesting to see how the refs deal with that in the game. But I think overall we match up the best with like maybe of any team in the playoffs. Like, it might be the best matchup for the Wolves.
Yeah, I think it is. It's awesome to match up with them. I'm hoping there's a way that Denver will somehow beat the Golden State, but I don't know how that's going to end up. And you kind of feel like Phoenix has a win no matter who they play.
So just looking way ahead, like, we beat Memphis, then we're playing the winner of 3-6.
Yeah.
Who is 3 right now?
That's the Warriors.
Whoa, yeah, Warriors.
Or Denver. Warriors and Denver's 5, right?
So it'd be Warriors and Denver. Okay. Wait, Denver's 5, right?
Yeah.
So Warriors Mavs. Okay. I mean, that's interesting. Like, I think that it was such a big deal to get this win because Memphis is the best matchup for us. And also, it's like, there's a possibility you can get through 2 series and not see the Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's big. And a lot can happen in the playoffs, man. Like, Chris Paul goes down, one other Phoenix player goes down.
Yeah.
Or even doesn't go down, but they're just hurt and they're playing through it. And then now you're there in the conference finals. And that's getting way ahead of ourselves. But, you know, this win was huge. And it's amazing to see that our young guys kind of understood that and went for it and got it done. And the home court advantage, I think we helped.
It did. Yeah, I think you guys did too. I mean, obviously, I think Anthony Edwards fed off of it, and he showed that he could step into that spotlight and perform for all of the fans through Minnesota and put on a great show tonight. I definitely give him the game ball tonight. It was awesome to see him.
It was amazing. I mean, of all the moments, the end was the best, but like second best was from my seats where I was kind of like, you know, up from, I guess, second half, I was on Grizzlies offensive side, but perfect view when the lane just opened up, like the parting of the Red Sea, and knew that Ant was going in for that dunk. And it was just like as soon as he turned that corner, you just saw it and you were just like, he's going for it. And the place just lost it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, and it was good to see him get back into the spotlight and kind of into the rhythm. He was struggling towards the end of the year, and he stepped right up and played a phenomenal game tonight.
Yeah, and you got that glimpse in the last couple games of the regular season where it was like, okay, he's got a little elevation. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I think he just needed to get right, or maybe just needed the motivation where, like, I need it. Is this the dunk?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
It was sweet.
Wow.
The last thing I think we should really talk about is what was the deal with the glue girl? Did you hear or see anything that happened to this during the game from your vantage point?
So it happened, like, basically the action is taking place on this side of the
Here's
court.
a picture of the glue spot.
Yeah, the action is taking place over here, and then that's going on over there. So all we saw was, like, the end of it and then, like, taking her out. And, like, they're not talking about it in the game, like the PA announcer. So it's like, what has happening? So we were all, like, checking, like, Twitter and the internet to be like, what happened? And it turns out this girl, like, glued herself to the floor, or
Yeah.
tried.
Try to.
It was
That would hurt.
Was it a protest? Like, what was this?
Well, that's what they said on the broadcast was like, all of a sudden they said, "Oh, there's somebody down on the court," and they thought like maybe one of the floor sweepers was there, like fell or something. And then they saw something on the ground and they thought it was blood. And Kevin Harlan even goes, "I think there's blood on the court," and then somebody must have whispered to him in his earpiece like, "No, actually, it was somebody they glued their hands to the floor." In protest. And so then he goes down that road on the national broadcast, and they didn't cut away from the whole event either, which was kind of crazy.
I gotta check this out.
They kept talking about it. They're like, well, maybe it's this. We don't know, but maybe. They brought in a sideline reporter. That was the video I played. That the audio. I can't send it to you, but it's yeah, they brought in the sideline reporter to speak to like the play-by-play of the glue girl. And
but
then
did they
in
find out what
halftime,
the protest is for?
no, I don't know. They did not voice it what a reason was or confirm if it was a protest. I don't know. But even Shaq talked about it on the halftime show too. That was the last thing they spoke about. It was hilarious that it made it all the way there. They kept talking about the girl that glued her hands to it.
Man. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm very curious to watch this broadcast. I'm definitely going to be rewatching this game just to re-see everything that happened. And if, when you watch it, it's so different watching it on TV and live. And I'm lucky enough to have scoped some tickets and,
Heck yeah.
Made it to the game tonight because it was just a vibe. It was a memorable experience. Bring on Memphis, baby.
Bring on Memphis. Yeah, well, good win by the Wolves. What a phenomenal night. I'm glad you got to experience it firsthand, Mike. And thanks for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll talk about that Memphis game coming up too, so stay tuned.
Wolves back, baby.
Wolves.